The pullover, one of the new movements we saw at the CrossFit Games last year. Also one of those movements that lots of us probably did as kids on the playground. And we're gonna show you a progression that allows every athlete, regardless of their ability level, kind of a way to potentially get a pullover and progress from assisted to unassisted. So the first thing that we wanna understand is that this is a momentum-based exercise where we need to continue kind of circular momentum around the pull-up bar. If we get stuck at any point, that's when people end up kind of either, if you get on top of the pull-up bar but can't get yourself forward, can't get yourself backwards, we need to understand that carrying our momentum through this movement is really important. So before we even have Kyle attempt a pullover, we want to just talk really quickly about a couple of the shapes that we want. It's going to start with a dead hang, and the first one is just going to be basically a knees to elbow, knees to armpit. Basically, I want Kyle to get his knees up as high to his chest as he can. Great. And then the second one is going to be getting the knees up, and then secondarily straightening the legs and letting the head drop. So once Kyle gets to a point where he's on top of the bar, he's going to need to think about straightening his legs and lifting his head to help keep that momentum going around the pull-up bar. So we'll just do this without kind of eliminating the pulling element. So Kyle gets to a hang, he's going to lift his knees up high, and as soon as he straightens his legs, he's going to lift kind of his head back behind him. All right? And it's not like a particularly sexy exercise or drill. As long as the athlete understands, like, as I straighten my legs, I'm gonna start to lift my head a little bit, it's gonna translate to the point at which they're turning around the bar. Now, once we actually get the athlete comfortable with the shapes, the next thing is to talk about trying to get them on top of the bar. We don't really care if they actually get all the way around on the first one, because getting the waist on top of the bar is the major kind of like sticking point for most athletes. So if we can get them there, then we can talk about how to complete the rep. So we start with a really tall box, and this is positioned a little bit in front of the pull-up bar. So Kyle can step up. He's basically gonna have one foot on the box. He's gonna drop one leg below. He's gonna have his arms straight. And we're gonna think about this as basically a jumping pull-up, just a jumping pullover. So as Kyle jumps with his legs and pulls with his arms, he's gonna try to think about creating kind of that knees up position that gets him on top of the bar. Jump, knees up, gets on top of the bar, and now he got himself stuck, which is totally fine. Again, we're just trying to get the athlete on top of the bar. Now this is where we need to go back to that shape exercise and think about basically, Kyle, as you start to get up onto the bar, so we're pulling the pull-up bar to our waist. As soon as you kind of feel that bar getting close to your body, you need to get your legs behind the pull-up bar, and then you need to lift your head, and that's gonna help you kind of tip over the bar, okay? So we're gonna look for, as he jumps, once his feet are kind of pointed back behind him, he's gonna straighten those legs, then lift with his chest. Straights the legs, lifts with the chest, and he's able to continue that momentum to get around the bar. Once we've done this box, basically our scaling here is going to be a taller box is gonna make it easier. At some point the box might be a little too tall, but basically the taller box is gonna be easier, and then we can go down to something a little bit shorter, a shorter box, a bench here. And now this is just gonna put a little bit more demand on Kyle's coordination with his upper body. So we got to kind of take the pullers out of the equation with the first one. This one's gonna require a little bit more of kind of a pull to the waist along with that jump. Lifts the chest, straightens the legs, and then finally we can again just kind of apply linear progression. He was fine there. This is quite a bit shorter, so we'll see if he can do it, but we get the idea. His feet are still on the ground, doesn't have a whole lot. Straightens the legs, lifts the chest, he's able to get over. One last thing to think about is that as athletes are learning, we might need a little bit of forward momentum. You may have noticed Kyle kind of started behind the bar, and as he sort of initiated the rep, he kind of jumped forward into a swing. That's totally fine. Once we get to the point we're at a dead hang from the bar with our feet off the ground, we're not going to be able to apply that as much, but getting a little bit of forward momentum in that first rep is really helpful. So one more, Kyle, last one. Little forward momentum. As soon as the legs get behind, he straightens the legs, locks himself out on the top of the bar, is able to come down. Remember, we got to communicate to athletes this is a momentum and coordination kind of exercise here. The second thing is those shapes, especially the idea of kind of straightening the legs. Once the athlete gets on top of the bar, it all becomes about counterbalancing so that the athlete tips around the bar rather than getting stuck on top. And then lastly, we've got scaling options for everyone, right? So as long as you have a pull-up bar for your athlete, having a box that is the appropriate height is going to allow athletes who might not otherwise have the upper body pulling strength required for an unassisted rep to be able to mix these into a warm-up, into a workout, affiliate games week, whatever. If you like that video, hit the subscribe button. We'll see you in the next one.